Hello everybody, happy Friday afternoon, hope yours is going well, and today we have another Seahawks video to get to, but first, we just hit 1,680 subscribers to the channel. Please subscribe down below and like the video if you haven't. Also, I want to give a special shout out to channel members Jason, Hillel, Anton, HaWKxXAsYLuM, Ryguy, Rip, Carson, Caesar, Nick, Dylan, Aaron, Joshua, zaknyfein, and newest channel member as of earlier today, Washi. So I want to give a special tip of my cap to you guys because you are my first 14 channel members. One more and we get another emoji. I want to give them a shout out. I want to give all my subscribers a shout out. And now it's time. It's time to take a look ahead to week 8. We know we're going to talk about the Seahawks game and we're going to do that tomorrow. But I want to take some time to take a look at the rest of the schedule and see who should the Seahawks be rooting for. Let's try to do the best we can to figure out what is advantageous to the Seahawks. First, we did have a game last night, Falcons at Panthers. The Falcons won. I think that plays to our advantage. The Falcons are already in fire sale mode. The Falcons are already, they know their season's over at 2-6 with several very winnable games already in their rearview mirror. So I think this is a good result for us. The Panthers had an opportunity to maybe get involved in the wild card race had they won this game, but now they're 2 games under 500. It's not inconceivable that they sell off some veterans, and that's something that I like to look for as a Seahawks fan. I want to see what teams can make some trades to help the Seahawks at the deadline. So this was a good result for us. We got 49ers Seahawks. We know who we're rooting for here. We know what's going on here. But this video is meant to look at the other games. So Patriots at Bills. Now, we've heard a lot of rumors that the Patriots are looking to become trade deadline sellers. They're trying to get rid of Gilmore. They're trying to get rid of some of their other veterans. They're basically just trying to set themselves up for 2021 the best they can. Another loss would go a long way to convincing them that they really just need to get rid of some of their vets. So I say the Bills, we should root for them, get that win, push the Patriots to 2-5 and let them know that 2020 truly is a lost cause for them. And the Patriots should be ready to sell some of those veterans, and maybe the Seahawks can be the ones who take advantage of it. Titans at Bengals. For the same reason, I'm going to be pulling for the Titans in this one to get the win, get off the losing streak they started against the Steelers. So, now, we already traded with the Bengals. They already gave up Carlos Dunlap for basically nothing. So it's not overly likely that we're going to be able to trade with them again. So this isn't exactly high risk, high stakes stuff for the Seahawks. They still have some players that I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on. And if they lose, then they're going to understand that their season is completely in the tank, and they'll probably look to shed some of their veterans. Now, Cincinnati is not a team that typically does things like this, so I'm not guaranteeing it. But another loss can only help. So rooting for the Titans to bury the Bengals one more loss. And John Ross, Geno Atkins, A.J. Green, Sam Hubbard, you never know who becomes available. All right, next game we have the Raiders at the Browns. This seems pretty low stakes to me as far as the Seahawks are concerned. The Raiders, they're not bad enough to become sellers. They're not really good enough to be true contenders this year, it doesn't look like, but they are not bad enough to become a fire sale candidate. The Browns are obviously off to a good start. I say the best thing we can do in this game is root for the Browns, just because the better the teams in the AFC North are, the more likely the Bengals are to be willing to sell their assets. But this is a very, very low interest game for rooting purposes if you're a Seahawks fan. All right, next up we have the Colts at the Lions. So I don't really know what the Lions are doing. They traded for Everson Griffin, which tells me they're trying to make a push to maybe make the playoffs this year. And at 3-3, that's reasonable. But then supposedly they're thinking about trading Kenny Golladay to the Giants. And we don't know if they're going to do that yet, but that tells me they're trying to blow it up. So I don't know what the Lions are doing. I think we're just better off rooting for the Colts to win. And, I mean, the Lions are another NFC team. They may Very unlikely, but they may end up competing for a wild card spot, which could put them in opposition to the Seahawks. So I say we root for the Colts just to put a little more distance between us and them if it turns into a wild card race between Seattle and Detroit. Vikings at Packers, and this is pretty obvious right here. Gonna root for the Vikings no matter how futile it probably is. No real chance of the Vikings pulling this one off. If the Vikings lose, which is very much likely, it's not all bad. The Vikings are a team that is pretty much already 90% of the way into fire sale mode. A loss this weekend would probably motivate them to get rid of some of their veterans, but they already got rid of their big piece in Yannick Ngakoue, so I don't really know what they would give up at this point. So we're obviously rooting for the Vikings. Jets at Chiefs. And this is an AFC game, not very important to this team, but I'm going to say we're going to pull for the Chiefs. Not that we need to. This line is 20.5 points for a reason. But another Jets loss and another humiliating Jets loss is only going to make them more likely to panic trade Quinnen Williams. And I'm telling you guys, if we can trade our second round pick for Quinnen Williams, if the Jets are actually dumb enough to do that, I'm jumping all over that and not giving a single solitary crap about the draft next year, because Quinnen Williams is immensely talented, and I will spend my second round pick on that dude any day of the week. So yeah, rooting for the Chiefs. Next up, we have Rams at Dolphins. Pretty self-explanatory here. Dolphins playing some good football. They helped us out a couple weeks ago. Maybe they can help us out again. The Rams, they're playing well. They just had a nice Monday Night Football win. But Dolphins are not necessarily going to go down easily. We're rooting for Miami to get it done here. And this is an opportunity for us to put some space between us and them, because they're probably the team that is going to make the biggest push to take the division away from us as we move on through the season, as I already detailed. All right, Steelers at Ravens. In a practical sense, there are no stakes in this game. Both these teams are in the same division, which our division does not play. I would probably say we want the Ravens to win just so the Steelers aren't undefeated, and we're not undefeated anymore, so they wouldn't be clearly above us with the 0 losses versus 1 loss. But I don't care about that kind of stuff, really. That stuff doesn't matter to me. So this is pretty much a no-stakes game for Seahawks fans. Okay, now we're moving on to the afternoon slate of games. We have Chargers at Broncos. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Chargers will probably not be willing to trade any assets because they're loading up for 2021 with Herbert in his second year. Herbert's played really well, so they have a lot of reason to be optimistic about that going forward. So I say we pull for the Chargers, send the Broncos to 2-5. A 2-5 Broncos team is more likely to sell off an asset like, say, Shelby Harris, which I think could benefit this team. And yeah, pulling for the Chargers to bury the Broncos in a situation where they know they just have to sell off their assets. Saints at Bears, and this is a really interesting one because conventional wisdom will tell you that the Bears are frauds, the Saints are the true threat, and we should be rooting for the Bears to win as many games as possible, because we know that ultimately at the end of the day, they're going to limp to the finish line when their lack of talent catches up with themselves. But I don't necessarily believe that's entirely true. I do believe the Bears are not as good as their record. I think that them being beat decisively by the Rams and Colts and eking out some very dubious wins so far this season speaks for itself, but I'm not completely convinced the Saints are all that either. This is a team that was very fortunate to beat the Chargers. This is a team that I think has a lot of real weaknesses. So I'm not necessarily believing that either outcome here is all that bad. I do think the Bears winning is more beneficial for the Seahawks, but both of these teams could easily end up in a wild card race with the Seahawks at some point this year, because right now I'm not seeing the Saints winning their division. The Bucs have picked things up a little bit. The Saints, we'll give them time, but I think that team has a lot of problems. And the Bears, I don't think, are going to be able to outrace the Packers. So either team losing is potentially good for the Seahawks. Either team winning is potentially bad. So I'm going to go with my gut and say we want the Bears to win, but it's very, very close, and it's not as clear-cut as some would say. Okay, now we're moving on to Sunday Night Football. Wow, okay. Cowboys at Eagles. Technically for the division lead, but we all know that the Cowboys, whether or not they want to admit it, and I think they pretty much have admitted it, are one of the worst teams. In fact, over the last few games, they've been the worst team in football, worse than the Jets. So they're not competing for the division crown. Even if they fluke out this game, they're probably just going to lose out from there. So yeah, we're rooting for the Eagles. If the Cowboys lose, they'll be 2-6. If they lose badly, they will realize what is already patently obvious to everyone else, that is a terrible, terrible team. So root for the Eagles, beat the Cowboys, let the Eagles pull away in the division, and let the Cowboys maybe consider sending Aldon Smith or maybe Randy Gregory over to Seattle. Aldon Smith is my favorite, by the way, guys. If you guys want to know who I really want to trade for before the deadline, it would be Aldon Smith in Dallas. Finally, Monday night, Buccaneers at Giants. Slam dunk. Rooting for the Giants to find a way to pull off the upset. Not counting on it, but very much rooting for it. Tampa Bay has slowly started to round into form now that they took those first two rough losses. We could use something to slow their momentum. And that's all we got for this week, guys. We got 4 teams on a bye. And yeah, that's going to do it for me. Peace out, go Hawks. See you guys in stream later tonight. And that's who I'm rooting for this weekend.